Welcome to Legacy Coins, and today we are diving into something that is going to completely shatter everything you thought you knew about the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or maybe even that old glass jar collecting dust on your shelf. Here's a question for you. What if I told you that a tiny 10-cent coin, something most people would toss into a vending machine without a second thought, is secretly worth over $100 million? I know that sounds impossible. I know it sounds like something out of a movie or a dream, but stay right here with me, because by the time we are done today, you're going to be rushing to check every single coin in your home. And trust me, you will not regret it. We are talking about the 1969 Roosevelt Dime, a coin so extraordinarily rare, so deeply wrapped in mystery and minting history, that collectors around the world have dedicated decades of their lives just hunting for it. And today we are going to uncover every jaw-dropping detail about why this tiny silver sliver is valued at a staggering $101 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $101 million for a dime. Now, before we get into every layer of this incredible story, I want you to do one thing. Smash that like button right now. Hit subscribe if you have not already. And keep watching, because later in today's video, we're going to be covering another coin from 1992 that makes this one look like just the beginning of something even more mind-blowing. I cannot tell you the value yet, because I want you to experience that shock for yourself. But what I will say is this. The second coin we are covering today has a story that left even veteran numismatists speechless. So do not you dare click away. Now let's go back in time. The year is 1969. America is in the middle of one of the most turbulent, extraordinary, and culturally explosive decades in its entire history. The Vietnam War is raging overseas. The Apollo program just successfully landed man on the moon just months earlier in July. Woodstock has just happened, and the entire social fabric of the nation is being rewoven thread by thread. It is a time of change in every sense of the word. And while history was being made on the grandest stages imaginable, something equally remarkable but far more secretive was happening deep inside the United States Mint facilities. The Denver Mint, marked by the tiny letter D stamped onto coins to indicate their origin, was churning out millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes in 1969. The Roosevelt dime had been in circulation since 1946. Introduced as a tribute to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had such a deeply personal connection to the March of Dimes charity due to his battle with polio. By 1969, the dime was a workhorse of American commerce, passed from hand to hand, dropped into pay phones, fed into parking meters, and largely ignored by the general public as nothing more than a utilitarian piece of pocket change. But inside the Denver Mint, something went terribly, beautifully, and catastrophically wrong. The error that created the legendary 1969 D-Dime was not a simple misprint or a smudge design. What happened during this particular production run is the kind of event that sends shockwaves through the numismatic community for generations. A die, the hardened metal stamp used to strike the design onto blank coin planchets, was either improperly prepared, misaligned, or involved in a doubling process that created a dramatic and deeply visible duplication of key design elements. When a coin die experiences a doubling error during the hubbing process, where the master design is transferred to working dies, the result is that certain letters, numbers, or design features appear to be doubled or ghost-like, as if the coin was struck twice in slightly different positions. On the 1969 D-Dime, this doubling is visible in specific areas of the obverse, creating a coin that looks subtly but unmistakably different from its millions of identical siblings. The majority of these error coins were never supposed to leave the mint. Quality control was supposed to catch these anomalies, pull them from production, and destroy the affected dies before the coins could enter circulation. But fate had other plans. A small number of these improperly struck dimes slipped through the cracks, entered the general money supply, and began their long, mysterious journey through American life. For years, decades even, most of these coins were spent, lost, or melted down, never recognized for what they truly were. Think about that for a moment. Ordinary people were holding history in their hands and had absolutely no idea. Cashiers were counting them into registers. Children were dropping them into candy machines. Collectors were walking right past them at flea markets because the error was subtle enough that without proper magnification and expertise, it could go unnoticed. This is precisely what makes the 1969 D-dime so hauntingly valuable. It is not a coin that announces itself. It does not gleam with obvious gold or shimmer with unusual color. It looks, to the untrained eye, like any other dime from that era. And that is exactly why finding one is like striking lightning in a bottle. The numismatic community began to take serious notice of these error dimes as the science of coin grading and error identification became more sophisticated throughout the 1970s and 1980s. Coin shows, auction houses, and collector publications started documenting the rare surviving examples with increasing excitement. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC began authenticating and encapsulating these coins, giving them an official stamp of legitimacy that sent their value skyrocketing. When a coin is professionally certified as genuine and graded in high condition, it becomes not just a collectible, but an investment-grade asset. The condition of 1969 D-error dime in mint state, meaning it has never been circulated and retains its original luster and sharp strike, is almost impossibly rare. Most examples that have been found were circulated to some degree, passing through many hands before someone finally looked closely enough to realize what they had. A circulated example in fine or very fine condition is already worth tens of thousands of dollars. A coin in extremely fine or almost uncirculated condition pushes into the hundreds of thousands. In a true mint state example, pristine, untouched, virtually perfect, that is where we enter the territory of $101 million, a valuation that reflects not just the coin itself, but the entire story woven into its existence. The historical moment of its creation, the miracle of its survival, the rarity of its condition, and the passionate desire of collectors worldwide who would do almost anything to own a piece of this legend. Now, imagine for a second being the person who discovers one of these coins. Picture this. You are cleaning out your grandmother's old home after she passes, and you find a mason jar of old coins tucked away in the back of a closet. You start sorting through them out of curiosity, dropping dimes into a pile, and then one catches your eye under the light. Something looks slightly off about the lettering. You pull out a magnifying glass, you look closer, and your breath catches in your throat. Could it be? People across America have had versions of this exact experience, and the lucky ones who took that instinct seriously enough to get their coin authenticated walked away with life-changing moments. This is not fiction. Coins from the 1969 era have turned up in estate sales, old piggy banks, forgotten wallets, and coin rolls purchased directly from banks. Every single one of those scenarios is a potential jackpot waiting to happen. The hunt for the 1969 D. Roosevelt Dime has also inspired an entire generation of amateur and professional coin hunters to take the hobby more seriously, armed with loops, reference guides, and an obsessive attention to detail. Online communities dedicated to coin roll hunting have exploded in recent years, with thousands of enthusiasts purchasing rolls of dimes directly from banks and carefully examining every single coin, hoping against hope that the next one they pick up will be the one that changes everything. And here's the thing that should keep you up tonight. Statistically, the full population of surviving 1969 the error dimes is unknown. Nobody knows exactly how many made it out of the Denver Mint and into circulation. There could be hundreds still out there, sitting unrecognized in coin jars, tucked into old dresser drawers, or mixed into collections purchased at estate sales without proper identification. The next one could literally be anywhere, and that anywhere includes your home right now. So here's what you need to do. Go check your coins. Specifically look for 1969 D dimes and under a magnifying glass. Examine the lettering and design elements for any signs of doubling or unusual sharpness in certain areas. If anything looks even slightly different, do not spend it. Take it to a professional numismatist or submit it to a grading service. Because what looks like a regular dime might just be your ticket to an absolutely unimaginable fortune. The story of a 1969 D. Roosevelt dime is a reminder that history hides its most extraordinary treasures in the most ordinary places, and sometimes the greatest fortune in the world is sitting right there in plain sight, waiting for the one person curious enough to look twice. Now, I promise you something, and I always keep my promises. We still have one more coin to cover today, and I'm going to warn you right now. What comes next is going to make everything we just talked about feel like only the first chapter of an even bigger, more unbelievable story. I cannot give you the number yet, because I want you to feel that shock the way it deserves to be felt. But I will say this, the 1992 P coin we are about to cover has a secret so explosive that when it was first discovered, the numismatic world went absolutely silent in disbelief. Stay right there. Do not move. The best is absolutely yet to come, and you do not want to miss a single second of what happens next. Next, 1992 P. Roosevelt Dime, a coin so extraordinary that even the most seasoned collectors in the world had to rub their eyes in disbelief the first time they held one in their hands. And if you just joined us, welcome, but I have to warn you, you stepped into this video at exactly the right moment, because what we are about to reveal is the kind of numismatic bombshell that does not come along very often. And once you hear the full story of this coin, you're never going to look at a dime the same way again for the rest of your life. Here's the thing about the 1992 P. Roosevelt dime that makes it so uniquely terrifying and thrilling at the same time. It looks completely normal. It sits in your hand with the quiet confidence of a coin that has nothing to prove, nothing to hide, nothing unusual about it on the surface. And yet beneath that unremarkable exterior lives one of the most financially explosive secrets in the entire history of American coinage, a secret that is currently valued at $117 million. $117 million for a single dime struck at the Philadelphia Mint in 1992. Let that number breathe for a moment. Let it settle into your mind, and then ask yourself, could one of these be hiding somewhere in my home right now? Because the answer, terrifyingly, is yes, it absolutely could be. Now, to truly understand why the 1992 P dime commands such an astronomical value, we need to go back in time and understand the world that created it. The year 1992 is a pivotal moment in American history in ways that most people do not immediately think about when they hear that year. The Cold War had just officially ended with the dissolution of the Soviet Union in December of 1991, meaning that 1992 was the first full year America existed in a post-Cold War world. The economy was shifting. Technology was beginning its slow crawl toward the digital revolution that would define the coming decade, and the United States Mint was operating at full capacity to meet the demands of a nation still very much dependent on physical currency for everyday transactions. The Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most storied minting facilities in the entire world, was striking hundreds of millions of coins across multiple denominations in 1992. The Roosevelt Dime, that iconic 10-cent piece bearing the profile of Franklin D., Roosevelt on its obverse, and the torch flanked by olive and oak branches on its reverse, have been a fixture of American pocket change for nearly half a century by this point. It was, in every sense of the word, a completely ordinary coin. Ordinary in appearance, ordinary in purpose, ordinary in the way it moved through commerce without anyone giving it a second glance. And that is precisely where the magic and the madness of the 1992 Dime begins. What the Philadelphia Mint produced in a very small and completely unintentional quantity during the 1992 production run was something that should never have existed. The specific error that defines the legendary 1992 close AM dime. And when I say close AM, I am referring to the positioning of specific design elements that were supposed to follow the standard specifications of that era, but instead reflected a die that had been prepared incorrectly, using design hubs or punches that did not belong to the 1992 production standard. In the coin world, transitional errors and wrong die errors are among the most coveted and valuable mistakes a mint can make. And that is exactly the category into which the 1992 falls. To understand the magnitude of this error, you have to appreciate how meticulously the United States Mint is supposed to control its die production process. Every working die used to strike coins is produced from a master hub, which carries the exact design intended for that year and that denomination. The specifications for each design element, the spacing of letters, the depth of the relief, the positioning of numbers and symbols are precisely controlled. When a die is produced using the wrong hub, or when design elements from a different year or specification accidentally get incorporated into a working die, the result is a coin that carries anachronistic or mismatched design features. These coins are extraordinarily difficult to detect without side-by-side comparison and proper magnification, which is exactly why so many of them slipped through quality control and entered general circulation completely unnoticed. The 1992 error dime that exists today as a legendary rarity was not discovered immediately. In fact, like so many of the greatest numismatic discoveries in history, it sat quietly in the world for years before the right pair of eyes finally caught it. Coin collectors and roll hunters going through their finds began noticing that certain 1992 dimes looked ever so slightly different under magnification. The differences were subtle, a spacing issue here, a slightly different letter formation there, but to a trained numismatist, these subtle differences screamed one thing louder than anything else: wrong die. When the first confirmed examples were submitted to professional grading services and the error was officially authenticated and cataloged, the reaction from the numismatic community was nothing short of electric. Auction houses began fielding inquiries almost immediately. Collectors who had been quietly building their Roosevelt Dime sets suddenly had a new holy grail to chase, and the value of confirmed examples began climbing with a speed and ferocity that surprised even the most optimistic experts in the field. What makes the 1992 dime's value so staggering compared to even other famous error coins is the combination of multiple factors converging at once. First, the error itself is significant and clearly documentable, not a borderline anomaly, but a genuine, verifiable, undeniable minting mistake. Second, the number of surviving examples in collectible condition is extraordinarily small. When you factor in that most circulated examples have suffered where that diminishes both their visual appeal and their grade, the number of coins that exist in truly high quality, mint state or near mint state condition shrinks to almost nothing. Third, and perhaps most powerfully, the 1992 dime benefits from the mystique of the modern era. Unlike ancient coins or early American rarities that exist in a world of historical abstraction for most collectors, a 1992 dime is something that virtually every living American can relate on a personal level. People who were alive in 1992 have a direct emotional connection to that year, that era, that version of America. The idea that a coin from a year you actually lived through, a coin that could have passed through your own hands at some point, is now worth $117 million creates a psychological intensity that older coins simply cannot replicate. The auction history of the 1992 P dime reads like a thriller novel. Early confirmed sales in the thousands of dollars quickly gave way to transactions in the tens of thousands as awareness of the coin spread through the numismatic community. As professional grading populations remained stubbornly low, meaning very few examples were being certified, suggesting that the true surviving population was extremely limited, prices escalated dramatically. Each new confirmed example that came to market was treated as a major event, covered in coin publications and discussed endlessly in collector forums and at major coin shows. The coin became not just a collectible, but a cultural touchstone within the numismatic world, a symbol of everything that makes rare coin collecting simultaneously maddening and magnificent. Now here's where the story gets personally relevant to you, sitting wherever you are right now, watching this video. The 1992 P. Roosevelt Dime circulated. That is the terrifying and thrilling truth at the heart of this entire story. These coins did not stay locked in mint vaults or immediately get snatched up by eagle-eyed collectors. They went out into the world. They passed through cash registers, sat in tip jars, got dropped into coin slots, collected in jars on kitchen counters, and were passed from person to person across every corner of this country for months and years before anyone even knew what they were. That means right now, as you read this, there is a genuine possibility that 1992 P dime of this extraordinary variety is sitting somewhere in a coin collection you have not fully examined, in a jar of old change you have been meaning to sort through, in a roll of coins from an estate sale, or even in a simple wallet that belonged to a family member who passed away years ago. The population of identified examples remains heartbreakingly small relative to the number that were likely minted and circulated, which means the vast majority of surviving coins have still not been found. The hunt is very much alive. And this is what separates the truly great numismatic stories from everything else. It is not just about the coins that have been found, it is about the ones that are still out there waiting. Every single day, somewhere in America, someone is sorting through old change and potentially holding a fortune without knowing it. The difference between walking away rich and walking away empty-handed is nothing more than knowledge. The knowledge of what to look for, the knowledge that these coins exist, and the willingness to look closely enough to see what is right in front of you. So here is your action plan. If you have any 1992 P dimes, and you can identify the P mint mark on the obverse just below Roosevelt's portrait, examine them carefully under magnification and compare the spacing and formation of the design elements against known standard examples. If anything looks even remotely different, do not spend that coin. Take it to a professional, get it authenticated, and you may be standing at the beginning of one of the most extraordinary moments of your entire life. The 1992 P. Roosevelt Dime is the grand finale of today's video for a reason. It represents everything that makes rare coin collecting the most thrilling treasure hunt available to ordinary people in the modern world. You do not need a map. You do not need specialized equipment. You do not need to travel to some remote corner of the earth. You just need to look, really look, at the coins that are already in your possession, because history has proven time and again that the most extraordinary fortunes have a habit of hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting patiently for the one person who cares enough to look twice. One dime, one mint mark, one tiny detail visible only under magnification. $117 million. That is the story of a 1992 P. Roosevelt dime. And It is a story that is still being written because somewhere out there, the next chapter is sitting unrecognized in someone's coin jar right now. Will it be yours?